A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. Going to be talking with our friend Toby Leary from the Civil Rights Coalition and Cape Gunworks up in Massachusetts here in just a moment or two. Tomorrow on the program, we are slated to speak with ATF Director Robert Sakata. He is scheduled to join us tomorrow, so barring any unforeseen circumstances, you will want to check out that interview. But I think you'll also want to check out today's conversation with Toby and the work that they're doing up there in Massachusetts with the Civil Rights Coalition to undo some of the damage that has been done to our right to keep and bear arms. And, you know, I will tell you right up front, I mean, I think this is an uphill fight, but they've already, I think, seen some significant success in simply putting this before the people of Massachusetts, which is not easy to do. They had a signature gathering deadline of just a couple of weeks. There was a lot of talk from Democrat politicians that we're not going to happen, it's not going to get it done, blah, blah, blah. And then they did. They got it done and then some. So the grassroots energy among gun owners in Massachusetts, it is there. And what they're doing at the Civil Rights Coalition to channel that energy into effective political activism, it really is extraordinary as far as I'm concerned. So love what Toby is doing. Happy to have him back on the program today. Take a look and a listen. Toby, thanks so much for coming on the program. It's good to see you again.
Always a pleasure to be here, Cam. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person at the Goal 250 event here in a couple of weeks. We'll give folks more information about that coming up at the end of our conversation. But, you know, we were talking last week. Obviously, we had that breaking news, in Cambridge, Massachusetts that really we wanted to talk about. And since then, we've seen more calls for more laws on the books. We've seen Governor Healy and other officials either downplay or completely ignore the actions of the armed citizen who helped save the day in that shooting. And again, I mean, to me, Toby, it's par for the course, right? I mean, they never want to give credit to lawful gun owners because they don't like the idea of lawful gun owners, frankly. Too many politicians in Massachusetts. That's why we saw the passage of Chapter 135. Governor Healy, signing this emergency preamble days after she signed the initial bill, into law. And the reason why she took that step to try to put this gun control package into place right away is because you and other Massachusetts gun owners decided that you weren't going to just sit there and take it, right? You were going to actually challenge this gun control package, this overhaul of the state's gun laws at the ballot box. Right. And she didn't like that.
Yeah, politicians don't like to be held accountable for their actions, that's for sure. And, Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers that the people are the true fountain of power. And it was time to show politicians that, a lot of times we wait on the courts to do the right thing. We wait on, national groups to come save us and rescue us. And in the First Circuit Court of Appeals, we don't really have a pathway for victory for the people whose rights are being infringed upon because of the activist nature of the courts in Massachusetts. So a lot of those dollars get spent elsewhere, and probably rightfully so, in the Fifth Circuit or the Seventh or the Ninth or the Third. But yet here we are in Massachusetts. We've been living with the federal assault weapon ban since 94. We've been living with magazine restrictions since 94. We had a massive tranche of gun control in 1998 where they come out with rosters and approved weapons and attorney general regulations and drop testing and all this extra requirements, all extra constitutional requirements. This is all an infringement upon the good people's right to keep and bear arms, never really addressing the criminal element of firearms and those criminals who use them in the commission of crimes, and making sure there's sentence enhancements and long periods of time they'll be held in jail. No, in fact, all they care about is restricting good people's right to keep and bear arms. So we have subscribed to the saying in firearms training world that no one is coming to save you. When seconds matter, police are only minutes away, right? That's kind of the mentality we've adopted in the firearms training community. Well, the same applies to our rights here in Massachusetts. We have been living under extreme threat of government violence if we don't comply with this checkerboard of laws that makes us a felon in waiting and leaves, the violent criminal element largely off the hook. They get released on personal recognizance. You can see the whole Tyler Brown is a perfect example of what we've been shouting from the rooftops for decades. And so the people decided to do something. We rose up in a very grassroots way, 100,000 signatures in 5 weeks without a single paid signature gatherer. And I don't know how many states in the country have this citizens petition, but under Article 48 of our state constitution, we the people can write law the same as our legislature can. So if we pass this, and this is a veto, we're actually not asking the legislature to do anything. We're literally vetoing a law that was passed. And we've seen this happen in Oregon. We've seen it happen in Colorado. We've seen it happen in other states. And it's time that the people rise up and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take this anymore. We are the true fountain of power. There's more of us than there are of you. And I don't like what you did. And the Civil Rights Coalition hired a national polling firm, very good, name recognition, national poll firm. And 73% of the likely voters in Massachusetts believe in the right to keep and bear arms and the Second Amendment. That comes as a surprise to a lot of people who look at us as this blue state, and they kind of look at us with a sympathetic eye and say, I feel bad for you guys living there. But the truth of the matter is, the majority of voters, almost 3/4 of the voters, are sympathetic to the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. That's not a good statistic for the people who voted for Chapter 135.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to carrying the torch right to the finish line and winning this on November 3rd.
Yeah, so this is going to be at the on the ballot this November. And I confess I was a little surprised to see support for the Second Amendment that high in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Obviously, in order to win, you guys are going to have to get the votes of people who aren't gun owners, but maybe support the Second Amendment, right? If you can get that 73% to turn out of the polls, you've won, right? Hands down, you've won. Right. So the challenge is how do you get that message that Chapter 135 is a violation of that right to keep and bear arms? It's not, just regulations. It's not common sense. That the laws that are put in place are designed to entrap gun owners. They are designed to inhibit the exercise of that right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example is the Tyler Brown event in Cambridge last week that we saw after the passage of Chapter 135. The promise that was made is it would make us safer. It would make our streets safer, that violent criminals wouldn't have access to these illegal firearms. The gun that he used has been banned since 1994 in one way or another. Maybe not banned, but severely restricted in one way or another. For somebody who is a lawful, peaceful citizen to obtain the firearm that gentleman, or that, gentleman is a very generous term for him, convicted felon who was able to obtain that just months after getting out of jail. Well, actually, it was a year after getting out of jail, because he was released early, like they love to do. They parole people. So we want to show that, number one, all rights are worth defending. Your rights aren't something that should ever be negotiated with politicians, right? If you were to apply the same standard to any other right, people would obviously say, no, we need to defend this. So when you show good people that your choice is now limited, even though the criminal's choice is abundant and they don't abide by the laws, and they'll go walk down Memorial Drive and shoot in broad daylight. But your choices are severely restricted, not to mention, if you are a mother or a single parent or an elderly person living on your own, and you've had a significant threat to your life, and you don't have a license to carry, your option for getting a firearm to protect yourself is months away. a lot of people have bought into the rhetoric of the gun control machine, which has done a very good job over the past 30, 40 years, that it's easier to buy a gun than it is to rent a library book, or it's easier to rent a gun than buy an apple at the grocery store. They've literally said these type of things at their, gun control sessions before Congress and, protests and everything else. And when you should say, hey, if you had a legitimate threat against you, guess what you don't have as an option? Your right to keep and bear arms, because you have to take a class, you have to get photographed, you have to get fingerprinted, you have to pay a fee, you have to go interview with the chief of police, you have to do live fire now, you have to take a test, you have to show that you're competent, you got to go through de-escalation training, you have to go through armed active shooter training, you have to go through all this training that doesn't even apply to us. We're not law enforcement. We're not, running toward the sound of gunfire, although that citizen did. But most people are just trying to go home to their families at the end of the day. And to exercise a constitutional right is now treated like it is a privilege in the state of Massachusetts. In fact, the courts will not recognize it as a right in reality, and as the function of the judiciary, it has upheld unconstitutional regulations against the good people of Massachusetts. And politicians are very smug about it. They actually said, we'll see how many signatures you get. When we started our campaign, they had no idea we were going to blow it out of the water and get that many signatures in that short a time. That's why Maura Healey acted, for the convenience of the oath-breaking politicians.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, again, the way you just described it, I think it should make sense to people who don't even own a firearm, right? Because again, this was billed as, we're going to keep you safe with these laws. Well, even with these laws in place, criminals are still able to access a firearm. And then when you juxtapose that, the ease with which this convicted felon was able to get a firearm that has been restricted, as you say, in the state of Massachusetts for 30 years or more, compare that to, again, the process that somebody's mom or grandmother or their daughter or their neighbor has to go through in order to protect themselves, whether it's, a stranger breaking into their home in the middle of the night, whether it's an abusive ex or a stalker, the months that it takes before you can exercise that right. I mean, imagine if, you had to get a permit to exercise your First Amendment rights and it took 6 months for you to do so. Or, listen, you're not securing your person or property until you have your Fourth Amendment permission slip. And it's running about 8 or 9 months right now before you get that approved. So in the meantime, we're going to go into your home without a warrant and see what we can find, right? I mean, the idea is ludicrous on its face. And yet, there are too many people, sadly, who just accept this premise when it comes to our right to keep our arms.
Right. And then if you let it expire, guess what? They can just barge through the front door and your license has expired. We're going to rummage through your drawers and look for that contraband we know is here. But, everyone would see the madness of that. And, there's a courthouse in Greenfield, Massachusetts that says liberty without license. And so many people have lost sight of that. We have subscribed to the reasonable and the common sense regulations around firearms. And we want to make sure that the firearms owning community, which has proven itself to be the most lawful, peaceful segment of society. And that's even in contrast to law enforcement. And God bless them, they have a hard job to do. But the truth of the matter is we have proven time and time and time again that we are the most lawful, peaceful segment of society. And yet criminal element gets off all the time without, the book being thrown at them for their violent criminal acts. And you could make Massachusetts safe tomorrow. I say it all the time, by putting bad guys in jail for the longest possible amount of the sentence. And you don't have to violate someone's right to do it, and you don't have to pass a single law to do it. All you got to do is sentence them according to the guidelines. And here we are defending our rights. And already, as you pointed out, We got politicians saying, see, we need to do more work on gun control. And they're proposing a new law that anyone who fires a gun in public and on the streets in and around where people are in cars and houses can be put in jail for a longer period of time. All of that's already illegal.
Right.
I don't even know how many laws he broke. So there's never a deterrent for the violent criminal, evil person. And I know I'm preaching to the choir largely here, but what we're trying to do is bootstrap this to the people you mentioned who don't own guns, but at least are sympathetic to the cause. And by the way, that poll we did, the breakdown of that 73% is 10% were Republicans, 30% were Democrats, and 60% were independents. And 60% of them identified as moderate to liberal. So these aren't the gun club that were interviewed or polled.
Right.
This was a good cross section of the Massachusetts voters.
I
still support the right.
I'm encouraged by that. I really am, and I think that the messaging that you're talking about hopefully will resonate with them because again, it's not about you're not standing up on a rock screaming "shall not be infringed," right? You're giving folks real world examples of
right.
Look, this is what the politicians said would happen. This is the reality of what happened. And in the meantime, who's hurt by these laws? It's not people like Tyler Brown. It's not repeat offenders. The people who are hurt by these new laws are the people who aren't a problem, right? They're not out there committing violent crimes. They are trying to exercise a fundamental civil right, and the state is putting up as many roadblocks as possible. If folks want to donate to the Civil Rights Coalition, if they want to, volunteer their time, if they're in Massachusetts, how do they get in touch with you guys, Toby?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that because the other side is doing their part and are funded by all the usual suspects, the Moms Demand, the Giffords, the Everytowns, the, Brady, the Bloombergs, all those types have dumped a lot of money into states that put the Second Amendment on the ballot. We are a grassroots, organization where we're seeing $50, $100, $200 donations, $250. Some people have donated a few $1,000s. Smith & Wesson has given us $50,000. Thank God. That really was the Kickstarter for this whole campaign. But if people want to donate, they can go to thecivilrightscoalition.com. They can sign up to volunteer. They can donate. They can subscribe to our newsletter. We're going to be bringing all the information that they need to know to bring, people to the poll. And frankly, we are now a gross minority in Massachusetts, 600,000. It's not even 10% of the population of Massachusetts are gun owners, or at least have license to carry or FID cards. Mm-hmm. So we need to bring people to the polls with us. We need people sympathetic to the cause. We need people who aren't a stakeholder. They're not an FFL, a gun owner, a gun club member, but their friends, their family, their kids, their parents, all their frenemies. I don't care. Bring out the people you argue with every day at the water cooler at work and tell them, hey, your rights are on the ballot this November 3rd. Go to thecivilrightscoalition.com and sign up and donate. Throw us a couple bucks. I know it's hard to spread. Money is spread thin, especially in Massachusetts where the cost of living is so high. Yeah. But here we are, frontline, tip of the spear. A fight is here, and it's our job. No one's coming to save us. We can all link arm in arm. We can bring people together. We can donate. And the money that we have raised is being spent very wisely. A lot of people are like, why don't I see billboards and ads on TV yet? It's like, because if we shoot the wad before Election Day, we're in trouble. We got to make sure we use this. And we have a very smart team in place that meets weekly and then, it fills in the cracks throughout the week. So we're gonna win this, I believe. We have momentum on our side, and I'm really encouraged by the people of Massachusetts who are frustrated that their rights keep being violated by oath-breaking politicians.
Absolutely, yeah. And honestly, you don't want to be on TV right now because a lot of folks are not paying attention to what's going on in November, which is a really good, again, it's a good opportunity for real grassroots activists to make some inroads. because most people are tuned out right now. But the next time we have you on, I want to talk about a little bit more about that messaging and that weekly strategy session that you guys have, because I think you and I were talking about this a little bit off air. I've been really intrigued by what Spencer Pratt is doing in the LA mayor's race. Not just him, but his supporters, putting together these really catchy, sticky, viral, whatever word you want to use, videos to make his case in a way that is entertaining, that is informative. And I think there's I think there's a way to do that with this issue in Massachusetts as well. So I'd like to kind of talk more about the messaging and how you plan to reach those unaffiliated voters, those independents, those people who are not gun owners themselves, but they say that they support the Second Amendment. Can we do a little bit of that next time we get you on the program?
Absolutely. Right. I would love to. And I've done a deep dive on this. So we are, for obvious reasons. But yeah, we could talk about that. Absolutely. And it'll really show into the campaign and our strategy and how we're going to win this. And I believe that, we have a great plan in place and momentum is on our side. And I can't wait to spread this message of hope really to the people that your rights aren't just held hostage by oath-breaking politicians. There's something you can do about it. I'm encouraged about that. Yeah.
And you are doing something about it. Toby Leary with the Civil Rights Coalition. Again, thecivilrightscoalition.com. And if you are in the New England area or you feel like going to Massachusetts on the weekend of June 13th, go to the Goal 250 event. Toby's going to be there. I'll be there. John Comerford from NRA ILA, Adam Kraut from Second Amendment Foundation, a lot of other great folks going to be in attendance. You can find out more information at goal.org. But come up, shake Toby's hand, and thank him for all the work that he's doing. And, maybe even slip him a 5 spot when you're shaking his hand. Toby, as always, man, thank you for joining me on the program. Thank you for everything that you are doing for our Second Amendment rights there in Massachusetts. And I look forward to continuing the conversation very soon.
Happy to do it. I love what I do. And thanks for having me on, Cam. See you soon.
And thanks once again to Toby for joining us on the program. And I'm looking forward to that next conversation too, because I'm really intrigued by what is going on with the sort of viral advertising, the earned media that Spencer Pratt is getting out in Los Angeles. Here's a guy who, honestly, given LA's politics, should not be competitive, but he is talking about LA issues in a way that is resonating with voters who would never identify as Republican, who would never identify as conservative. And I think that there is a way to do the very same thing with the Civil Rights Coalition and the fight to undo Chapter 135 in Massachusetts by reaching out to people who aren't gun owners, but talking about these issues in a way that will matter to them. All right, before we get to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report, let's talk about something that matters. Father's Day is coming up here. If you are looking for something to offer your family, because I always, when Missy was alive, man, every year it was, what do you want? Like, I had to make some suggestions. I had to come up with my wish list. So if you are looking for some wish list items, I have a website for you to check out, modernrugged.com. You can find all kinds of stuff there, including great bags like this, from city streets to mountain trails. Your gear should go wherever life takes you, and that's why at Modern Rugged Leather, every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather. It's designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Every stitch, every buckle, every strap reflecting timeless craftsmanship. And it's backed by a lifetime warranty, because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. I was out of town last weekend, and because you never know when news is going to break, I never know when I'm going to have to pull out my computer and write something up on a Saturday or Sunday. Always have to pack my computer with me. And, it's kind of a pain in the neck. I've got a Mac. They don't have a USB port anymore, so I've got to have a little separate USB charger and all of my cables and laptop itself and the mouse pad. And it can get a little bulky. But with the Modern Rugged bag, nah, man, it's streamlined. There is so much storage in here. It is unbelievable. And, again, it looks great. It holds up to all of the abuse that I put it through. Cannot recommend it enough. So whether it's the boardroom or the back roads, Modern Rugged Leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern Rugged Leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Life takes you places. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection or recommend the full collection to your family members and those who might be giving you a Father's Day present at modernrugged.com. Again, that is modernrugged.com. All right, on to today's recidivist report. We will start there with a case out of Rochester, Minnesota. You know, Democrats in Minnesota spent this entire session, which thankfully expired without the passage of a gun and magazine ban, but they spent this entire this entire session focused on lawful gun owners and trying to restrict their right to keep and bear arms. And again, same argument we saw in Massachusetts, right? You're going to be safer if we can just, stop lawful people from owning commonly owned firearms. Meanwhile, they didn't focus on violent criminals. They didn't focus on repeat offenders. They didn't focus on ensuring that there are consequences for violent actions. And in Minnesota, there are not always consequences for violent actions. Take this case. Man sentenced in Rochester recreational trail robbery. All right, so this is not solicitation. This is not trespassing. This is an actual robbery. And an assault, by the way. 23-year-old Munasar Mohammed and two other men attacked a man in June of 2023. So this has been going on in the courts, by the way, for almost 3 years. Guy was walking on a path in a park there in Rochester, Minnesota. Victim told police that the assailants punched and choked him before they stole his wallet. Officer responding to the reported robbery and assault was able to locate and arrest the three suspects a short time later. Mohammed, identified as one of the attackers, he was charged with first-degree aggravated robbery and felony simple robbery, but he got a plea deal. He got a deal. And under this deal, Mohammed admitted to an amended charge of aiding and abetting simple robbery in exchange for the dismissal of all the other charges. And he was ordered to spend 5 years on supervised probation and perform 100 hours of community service. Charges against one of the other suspects was dismissed outright. The third individual who was arrested entered a guilty plea to a simple robbery charge. 25-year-old Mohammed was earlier sentenced to 33 months in prison, which is not nothing. Although with time off for good behavior, you're looking at more like a year and a half behind bars. But the most recent individual, again, to cop a plea, Munasar Mohammed, walking away with nothing more than probation and a slap on the wrist there in Minnesota. All right, on to today's armed citizen story from Philadelphia, where a home intruder was shot and killed in the Ronhurst neighborhood. This was, I believe, early Monday morning. According to Philly police, man broke into the home overnight and was shot and killed after attacking the residents inside. Evelyn Leva said that she was asleep around 1 o'clock in the morning. She heard a loud noise outside. She thought it was her cats, but it turned out to be a guy breaking into her home with a metal pipe. She said, when I was coming out from my room, there was one guy inside the house. She said, I don't know this guy. I was very scared. He's coming to me like crazy. Starts pushing me. She said, I have something on my hands. Her teenage daughter, Valentina, said, I woke up to my mom screaming, and I thought I was dreaming, so I didn't immediately wake up, kind of in that sort of twilight daze. She said, but then I opened my eyes, and I could see her pushing him out of the room. Livia said she screamed for help, shouting, call the police, this guy's crazy. The victim's downstairs neighbor heard the screams, ran up to help. They retreated to his home, apparently until police arrived. The neighbor identified by Valentina as a man named Dan. She said, we were sitting in Dan's living room. We were shaking and crying. We were in so much shock. Apparently when Dan went up to help these women, the intruder started attacking him, which is when the intruder was shot. Livia said, thank God Dan was here. She said, and help me, I know he was here. God help me otherwise. I don't know what would have happened. Well, I'm pretty sure I know what would have happened. It wouldn't have been anything good. But in the right place and willing and able to do the right thing, I guess this could qualify as a good deed of the day. The neighbor Dan, who again able to save these women from a intruder armed with a metal pipe who broke into their home there in Philadelphia. Now, today's real good deed of the day from Grapevine, Texas, where an off-duty paramedic and some Good Samaritan drivers were able to save a family and their pets after a rollover crash in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This was on Highway 121 in Grapevine, and it was a result of a hit and run. It was about 9:30, I believe, on Sunday night. Mackenzie Koch and Kyle Betancourt driving back to their home in Weatherford, Texas. They had their two dogs, golden retrievers, River and Riggins, in the back seat, and they're getting ready to take an exit onto Highway 121. And Kyle Betancourt says the next thing he knew, his truck slammed into the median, rolled upside down in a grassy area off of the highway. So they're upside down, essentially. Koch and Betancourt were able to undo their seatbelts to get out of their car, and they saw that both of their dogs were outside of the vehicle in that sort of grassy median area, but Riggins was running into oncoming traffic. Thankfully, two other vehicles the drivers saw what happened, stopped to help. They called first responders. Betancourt says, we're in the middle lane. We're just driving along. The next thing you know, I could feel the back driver's side tire of my car just get smacked. And then Koch said it just truly felt like there were angels there at that moment. One of the men, an off-duty paramedic, he was able to get Riggins off of the highway. He then checked the couple for injuries. Both were taken to a local hospital in an ambulance, although thankfully they did not suffer serious injuries. But when they were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, Mackenzie Koch realized that she did not have a chance to say thank you. She said, those kinds of people, I know they don't need a thank you, but she said she wanted to try, so she posted on social media, found the name of the off-duty paramedic, and sent him a message. Fox 4 in Dallas-Fort Worth also spoke with a man who said he doesn't want any attention, but he is thankful that everybody is okay. Grapevine PD, by the way, told Fox 4 that there were 2 hit-and-run crashes reported that night in the same area. I don't know if it's the same car. Betancourt said so far all they know it was a red SUV that hit them, and then they sort of lost control and hit another car, so I guess maybe it does sound like it was the same vehicle. But again, in the right place, at the right time, willing able to do the right thing to help out this couple and save their dogs from really what could have just been, tragic circumstances. Scary enough that you're in this accident and then to lose the family pets as well. I mean, that just would have been absolutely brutal. We thank the Good Samaritans there, including that anonymous off-duty paramedic, for not just being in the right place at the right time, but again, being willing and able to do the right thing. That is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company, and I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I am looking forward to seeing you back here again tomorrow when we talk with ATF Director Robert Cicada about the proposed rules, about the pushback that he has received from Democrats on Capitol Hill, about a number of topics, including the ATF operations side of things. Obviously, when you look at some of the operations that have been done in the past, not even just talking about Fast and Furious, but, even the incident last year with the Little Rock Airport executive who was allegedly an unlicensed gun dealer, the pre-dawn raid in his home. He and his wife believe that they're the victims of burglary. He grabs a gun. He's shot and killed by ATF officials or at least individuals working with the ATF. I think it might have actually been a local police officer. What kind of guardrails are being put in place to ensure that things like that don't happen in the future? It's going to be a pretty wide-ranging conversation with Robert Cicada. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll encourage you again to check it out tomorrow. But also be sure to check out BearingArms.com today. In the meantime, we are keeping you up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation, including the armed citizen stories, the latest on that shooting in San Diego on Monday afternoon, and much more. And if you like what you see in terms of our coverage, I would encourage you to become a VIP Gold, or VIP Platinum member Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code FIGHT, and you can take 60% off your membership. No matter what tier of support you choose, you will get some great benefits. Obviously, those benefits increase as the tiers go up. But again, no matter what tier you choose, you'll also be supporting the work that we're doing at Bearing Arms, and I want to thank you for that because it really does mean a great deal. Have a great rest of your 2A Tuesday. Hopefully, I will see you on Newsmax or News Nation this evening. And if not, I'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.